You are looking at one of the most twisted science experiments ever done. This baby boy and this chimpanzee raised as brothers and sisters. And it was perfectly documented for you to see, Night Fam. But before I tell you how insane this experiment turned out, you have to meet the mastermind, Dr. Winthrop Kellogg, a psychologist fascinated by wild children, those raised with no human contact, left in the wilderness all on their own, or even possibly raised by wild animals. So he wondered what would happen if it was the opposite. If a baby animal from the wild was raised in the same way human babies are being raised. In fact, Winthrop was so curious he went as far as experimenting with his very own son, 10-month-old Donald. But little did he know this sacrifice he just did would soon turn into a huge regret. First, he took into his family a 7-month-old chimpanzee he named Gua, all to be raised as a human, like Donald's real sister. For the next few months, Donald and Gua were always together. They wore the same clothes, ate the same food, played with the same toys, and slept on the same type of beds. Every day, they went through a series of experiments to see how different their reactions would be. Some were friendly experiments, but some were rather cruel, like tickling their bodies excessively, hitting their heads with a spoon, just to check the difference with their bone structures. And on top of it all, in one experiment they fired a gun right behind the tube, just to see who reacts more quickly. Soon enough, Winthrop started to get the answers he was looking for. 6 months into the experiment, Gua began to copy the way humans walk. She had a more upright posture. She learned how to open doors easily. She discovered how switches controlled electric light bulbs. She dressed, ate, and would use the bathroom without the help of their parents. But this is where things got even crazier, and Winthrop started to have doubts, because Gua's progress became Donald's failures. They wanted to see how Gua's behavior would change being raised with a human baby, but they didn't think how Donald's behavior would change being raised with an animal. Before they knew it, Donald started to copy the way Gua walked. And because Gua wouldn't talk, Donald couldn't too. She was the dominant teacher for the child. The boy failed to learn words and instead made sounds like an animal. He would bite, shout, and growl at his parents every time he got mad. Until 3 more months later, Winthrop finally realized the experiment wasn't worth it. They sent Gua to a zoo to be with her real family, where she was able to readapt fairly quickly. But it wasn't as easy for Donald. He grew up having many traumas, and unlike Gua, he never got to overcome the experiment's side effects, leaving us with a fascinating conclusion that the human brain can be our strongest weapon, while at the same time also be our weakness. With our depth, we are much more likely to carry trauma throughout our whole lives. And that is exactly why the way we raise our children can define their entire lives. Because clearly, none of this would have ever happened to Donald if it wasn't for this one decision made by his own father, who was so blinded by his fascination with science, he went too far, risking his own child.